hello guys. I can see several people here. I can see that they say, hey, happy Thursday. Hello to everybody. I'm glad to see you all here. My name is Masha. Some of you know me as an admin of Serpstat chat. My nickname at Serpstat is Frankie. If you still don't know, at Serpstat, we don't have names, just nicknames. And there are no identical nicknames in the whole company. So my nickname is Frankie because of Frank Sinatra, whose music I adore, and Frankie Fix from 9 Yards, who also was a gangster as Sinatra. So I guess I was destined to host a webinar on PBN. And now I have a great speaker here, a fantastic speaker today, Craig Campbell. How are you, Craig?
All good, all good.
Great. We could dedicate a separate webinar to just his personality, as before the webinar I've researched what people tell about him. And you, Craig, is called an innovator in SEO, a person who experiments a lot, who is a trendsetter, who is not afraid to try and test new things. That's why Craig is here with such a topic, I suppose. And also, I know him as a champion on TikTok. Yes? Yes, I know. He's got two rivals like Matt Diggity and Christopher Samper. And if you still haven't watched their battles, guys, you should do it because it's epic. Absolutely. I love it. And today, Craig is with us with a great topic, PBN. Like, everybody would like to find out better about it. Some of us already use it with success. Some of us just think about it, but don't know how to do it right. And I guess that Craig is just the right person who should do it and teach us how to do it, not to get caught. So I hope we won't get in prison after this webinar. So Craig, welcome, and here you are. Here is your presentation. So guys, enjoy.
Thank you, and hello everyone. So just going to start sharing the screen and getting the presentation ready. So obviously a big thank you to Serpstat for allowing me to come on and share some tips and advice on some PBNs. So a bit about myself, if you are not familiar, because I've not ever really done much with Serpstat before. I'm a UK-based SEO consultant, training provider. I do a lot of affiliate marketing, but primarily over the years, I've always been a link builder, and it's just, you know, my area that I enjoy the most in SEO. Now, with any SEO campaign, we always want to see growth similar to what's in this chart. You know, what is known as a traffic boner in the industry, we want to see that needle moving up and us getting more keywords and more traffic to our websites. And link building is exactly what you need to do, alongside obviously content and everything else. Link building, everyone knows, regardless of whether you do PR, you do outreach, you do citations, you do broken link building, people are building links, and that is something that's not debatable at all. They move the needle, they work very well, and PBNs are a strategy that you can use. Now, before I go into this, I don't want to, try and force PBNs down your throat. Now, I use them as part of my strategy, and obviously some people don't, and they can still get good results. That's entirely up to you, whether you think they work or not and stuff like that. I'm just here to help people who believe in them, who have seen benefits from them, or maybe help people understand about them. So I don't want to be seen as the guy that's saying only PBNs work. Links are links, and we want to get as many of them as we can. But if we look across Google, you'll see people up there at the top, niche pursuits, suggesting that Google appears to have updated their algorithm to detect PBNs, blah, 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 blah. And then you'll have other ones that are saying PBNs are great and they work really well. So there's a whole bunch of debate in the industry as to whether you should use them or not. Typically, you're going to have some guy that looks something like this, that's maybe a year into an agency job, who thinks he knows everything, some kind of geek who will tell you that PBNs don't work. Now, who is saying PBNs don't work? It is guys that work in agencies that say that. You ask any affiliate marketer or anyone who's their own e-commerce website whether PBNs work or not, and you'll see that the highest percentage of them will, of course, confirm that at one point or another a PBN has been used. So let's not listen to the masses and geeks who are a year into their industry that haven't even tried it. Now, with anything in life, it's a famous Muhammad Ali quote: "He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life." And the same goes for online marketing. If you don't take a risk, you're going to be left behind. So try and test things. Don't listen to geeks who haven't tried anything. Try stuff out and see if it works for yourself. Now, personally, I operate in the gaming niche, and this is one of the competitors to me, Gamevo, who in the last month have had 281,000 backlinks. Now, if I was to listen to the geeks of the industry that don't allow PBNs to work, then I'm going to have a real hard time catching my competition, because it's humanly impossible to build that amount of links unless you have 10, 15, 20 agencies working on your behalf. And if you're doing it all the supposed white hat way, then it's going to cost you millions of pounds to do that. So what option do I have? I've got to play the game the exact same way everyone else is. And if you look at any gaming website, any finance website, anything with, the casino niche, everyone is using PBNs. Now, there's a real PBN and there's a shit PBN. Now, that's where the problem lies. A real bad PBN, or people who say PBNs don't work, are guys who've maybe done it on the cheap. Maybe used a PBN that, wasn't a PBN. Now, PBN stands for Private Blog Network. It's not a cluster of websites that a guy's selling in Fiverr. That's a public blog network. It's garbage. It's spam to death. It's not a PBN. So we have shit PBNs, a cluster of sites that are rammed on one server. The who is details are all registered under one account. Spun content, all that kind of garbage. They don't have any traffic. They don't have anything. And, they've got hundreds of outbound links. Now, when someone's analysing a real PBN, what are you looking for? You're looking at links. You're looking at unique content. You're looking at whether the website gets traffic in its own right. Even if it's like an affiliate website, it's been monetized. That's also something you want to look at. And also you want to remain footprint free. You don't want to be in the same servers. You want to vary everything up so that these websites essentially are real websites. And that's the difference between a real PBN and a shit PBN. Now, a shit PBN, as I say, is a domain name with low domain metrics. It's just get everything, and they sell publicly and they don't have any traffic. No one wants to buy that garbage. It's not going to move the needle. You've got guys in Fiverr that are selling high quality backlinks, 50 permanent links for a Fiverr and all that stuff. Stay away from it. That is the type of PBN that is likely to get you penalized. So there's two different types. Now, obviously, Google will tell you that great content attracts natural links and all that kind of stuff. Now, you would be dead. You'd be 6 foot under in a skeleton, still looking at your phone, waiting for Google to give you any kind of natural links. Unless you're Pepsi, David Beckham, Brad Pitt, or something else, you're not. A roofer in London, for example, is, regardless of content, is not going to be getting those natural links, that evergreen content that all these guys talk about. But link building's a ranking signal. Moz confirm it, Backlink will confirms it. Everyone else confirms it. So we need to start building links. That's all there is to it. And that's where we have to avoid the scare tactics. Make sure that we understand that there's two different types of PBNs. Now, Google has stated clearly in their terms of service that building one link can lead to a penalty. Why is no one getting out there and questioning someone doing outreach, saying that's potentially black hat? You know, why is a PBN black hat? You know, why are people scared of it? You know, that's scaremongering. It's, you know, obviously Google's terms of service say that building one link can lead to a penalty. Of course it can, and but they have also released other statements saying that link building is the number one ranking factor. So it's a contradiction in terms, and obviously Google do look at links, and I think we can all agree on that. So some of the things you don't want to do with PBNs is buy a bunch of expired domain names, go and grab a shared server that allows you to put 20 websites on it, which effectively allows you to put all your domains onto one IP address. That's a massive footprint in itself. Real PBNs have no footprints. They also have traffic, and they're totally unique websites. And I'm going to talk you through how that works. You've got to work smart, do it properly, don't think cheap, do not scrimp and scrape on the costs of hosting and things like that. We want to make sure that the PBNs are paying for themselves and actually giving us some value from an SEO point of view. So you want to obviously use multiple web hosts, different server locations, which all have different IP addresses. Now, that may seem like a right pain in the backside, but I'm going to talk you through some of the tools and some of the processes that I do when I'm building a PBN. So first things first, finding an expired domain name. What are your options? Spamzilla, spamzilla.io is a great tool where you can look for expired domains or domains that are on auction, and it shows you a whole bunch of metrics as well, which is why I love Spamzilla. So it pulls through your trust flow and citation flow, or your Ahrefs, DR score, Moz, DA score, and although I would say don't obsess over metrics, this gives us an indication as to whether that domain is something that we would want to go for. So spamzilla.io is a tool that costs $37 a month and helps you find PBNs, and you can do searches, you can filter stuff down and find good quality expiring domains on there. They also do show whether they're in auction. It shows the price if they're in an auction or whether it's expired. It also gives you a spam score, because we all know that, you know, casinos and everyone else may have had that domain name before you and literally spammed it to death. So Spamzilla also has a spam score, which has a little algorithm that will tell you whether something's got a high spam score or not, and it also shows you about pages in Google's index and also the kind of links that website's got in terms of external and all that kind of stuff. So you want to have a look at that. Now, another place where you can get powerful domain names without doing all the donkey work is SEODN.com, which is Joash Boyton. He has a powerful bunch of domain names that these guys basically vet every domain name on there and go through them and make sure that they are offering premium domain names. And these guys are other guys you can basically just reach out to, sign up, see their inventory, and get what we would call premium domain names. So there's guys out there like these guys who are basically filtering through the crap for you, so you don't have to go to your Spamzilla and do all your checks. So the option is yours. Now, a lot of guys use these expired domain names. Sometimes they 301 redirect them. The other option is obviously to build a PBN, and in most cases, you want to probably build a PBN. And you'll see here from the diagram, you know, we'll have a bunch of PBNs that all point into the money website. Now, as I say, expired domain names you can get from GoDaddy, And then what you would do is go to something like the Wayback Machine. And you'll be able to see on the Wayback Machine a copy of the website in most cases. And Spamzilla also shows you, by the way, if the domain name actually is a copy of the website on the Wayback Machine. So you can go to the Internet Archive, you can get all the content, all the URLs and everything else from the website and repurpose that website. Now, I'm just as an example, Nigel Farage, mep.co.uk. Nigel Farage was a member of the European Parliament and a well-known guy in the UK, politician, and he let his domain expire because he was no longer a member of the European Parliament. And so the first thing I done was go to the Wayback Machine, and you can see that that's what was on there. He had his pages, he had some of his pictures. It was a god-awful website, by the way, a really bad website in terms of aesthetics. That's what it looks like just now if you were to go to it. So that was an expired domain name. Now, why did I buy that expired domain name? Well, it was a DR44. It had a lot of backlinks. And if I was to look at those backlinks, you'll see that there was Forbes, New York Times, BBC, The Guardian, and a whole bunch of other top powerful referring domain names, which obviously I would want to use potentially to power up a website. Now, Nigel Farage is just an example of a domain name of a high-profile guy that I use for presentation examples. It's not something I can really utilize in a great way as a PBN, but you get the picture. It's all about the referring domains that's pointing to this website. I can redistribute that power to my particular website or a bunch of other websites using the links. Now, you'll be able to see I can log into the back end of Nigel Farage. It's my website, and I can use it as a PBN to pass some power. Now, because I own the domain name, I was also able to grab the knowledge panel from Nigel Farage and verify that that was mine. But be careful, be very careful, because you just never know who's watching what you're doing. So I do this for speaking purposes to show people, what a good PBN is, or maybe a high-profile PBN. And you've got idiots out there like this guy who thinks I was trying to pass off as Nigel Farage. Clearly, the guy doesn't understand PBNs. Clearly, the guy's got nothing better to do with his time. And clearly, the guy just doesn't get the concept of what's going on and doesn't realise that I talk about it publicly. He thought he was exposing me there. But the point I'm trying to make here is cover your footprints, because people are always watching. And I didn't cover my footprints with Nigel Farage. Why didn't I do that? Because I was doing it for demonstration purposes, and I didn't cover my footprints. And it took one guy who could basically uncover. So I could spend £100,000 on building a PBN network. And if you don't cover your footprints, you're going to have a guy like this who will come and expose or potentially report you to Google or do something else. So be very, very careful, because there's sneaks out there who are watching every move. So try and avoid leaving footprints. Avoid using your own name in the who is and all of that kind of stuff. And stupidly, I didn't avoid footprints here. Well, it's not stupid. It was just for demonstration purposes, so I've nothing to hide. But that's a guy there saying a load of garbage. Now, other than using the Wayback Machine, you can also use a tool called Archiverics, which basically allows you to restore a website from the Wayback Machine on autopilot, and they literally charge you peanuts to be able to do that. Now, over and above that, they can also allow you to edit and manage websites through their own CMS. So if you're looking for a quick way to scale your PBNs, then Archiverics is a great option for you. With the Nigel Farage website, I get a guy called Costa PBN who no longer does PBNs as such. You know, the guy got that busy that he just stopped doing it. But if you go to findmydesign.co.uk, there's a fella there who is able to churn out WordPress PBNs at a very decent price. So if you're looking for someone to do it for you rather than use Archiverics or whatever, then this is another option. When you're getting these websites designed, make sure that your guy's using a different template and a different set of plugins, you know, across, you know, mix all that kind of stuff up as well, avoiding leaving footprints. Now, when it comes to hosting, people often ask me, do you have a good PBN host? Now, over the years, I have looked at GoPBN and a few other PBN hosts, and they've never been that good. Now, why is that? I'm not so sure. But what I tend to do, and what I think is best practice, is just to use, there's a million different hosting companies out there. Mix it all up, go out and get different hosting accounts for the different websites, and you just try and mix all of that kind of stuff up. Different hosting companies have different sets of IPs, they've got different server locations, and I think by doing that is good practice to, again, avoid leaving the hosting footprint there. So personally speaking, I simply go to a whole bunch of different hosts and slap the websites on there. Bearing in mind to mix up your whois data when you're registering your domain names. Don't be crazy and put the name Donald Duck in. Try and put a plausible name in, or a name using one of your fake personas or whatever you use, but also mix the whois data up. Do not have all of the domain names that you've bought held in the one registrar account under your name. That is a footprint, and again, something that's likely to get you caught. Now, talking about fake personas, now obviously we can use fake personas for a whole bunch of different reasons. You know, whether that's, you know, negotiating people for guest posts or, you know, whatever. But I use fake personas also for basically website owners or whatever, you know, so I'll register stuff under their name. Now, you basically see guys out there, stupid guys like me, have different phones for different fake personas. So I've got a whole bunch of phones that, you know, all have a whole bunch of different stuff on them. You know, they've all got Twitter accounts and all of that kind of stuff. The job is obviously to work smarter, not harder. You can delegate a lot of these processes. You can outsource a lot of this stuff, and you can use automation. Now, on a fake persona that I've got, you know, there's a guy there called Adam Howard. Again, there's no point in trying to reverse engineer what Adam Howard does. It's just a demonstration account. However, Adam Howard has 2,500 followers. He regularly tweets and retweets and all that kind of stuff, and does a whole lot of interaction online. So if anyone was to look at it, they would think he was a real guy. Now, that sounds like a lot of hard work, but I'm automating a lot of that process with the fake personas. Now, the first tool I use for social media automation would be jarv.com. And what does this tool do? Now, it works across a whole bunch of different social media platforms, like Twitter. So you can schedule posts, you can mention people, you can automatically follow or unfollow people. You can auto-follow people back if they follow you. You can automatically retweet based on keywords or hashtags. You can automatically favorite stuff based on the same stuff. And basically the key feature here, I think, is the auto-follow and unfollow. So you can basically set your account up to follow everyone who follows Serpstat, for example. So everyone who follows Serpstat is likely to have an interest in digital marketing. And basically Serpstat have worked hard and built a following up and all that kind of stuff. Why not, you know, follow everyone who follows them, because a percentage of that amount of people will automatically follow back. And what you're doing is, if they don't follow back, the tool can automatically unfollow them. So this tool just works 24/7, following people, automatically unfollowing them, and all that kind of stuff. It also has breaks within the system, so it keeps you under the radar in terms of the amount of this stuff it can do a day, so that you don't get a penalty. So don't worry about that. But you can basically build up a social media following very, very quickly by using automation on your fake personas, which then just give you that element of, that's a real guy, that's a real website. And these are the lengths that people go to when they're building PBNs. Now, also on Facebook, different social media platforms allow you to do different stuff. If you wanted to build Facebook groups and all that stuff, again, you can automate that whole sequence of stuff. The guys also have LinkedIn profiles. They also have, Facebook and all that stuff. And in terms of automation, Linked Helper is another great tool where you can build up a massive audience in specific niches. And basically this tool is a Chrome extension. It costs $15 a month, and it can basically do everything, including adding connections. It can automatically message new connections. It can view people's profiles. It can endorse people. It can automatically follow or unfollow people. It can do a whole bunch of stuff on autopilot. So again, with your fake personas, you're building this up as if it's a real guy or a new member of staff, all on autopilot, which means you can get the scale you need, and it's $15 a month for that. So that's good. So that's what I do. I have a fake persona, set up the account, buy a hosting package, and Adam Howard, for example, will be in charge of website A, and he's a guy with thousands of followers and all that stuff. So what I also do is treat the websites as if they are kind of real websites. I don't just get them up and just leave them. What I'll do is go and build a bunch of citations to any PBN that I've got. Also cleaning that stuff up. If the previous owner, had a kind of messy citation set up, we can get a citation audit and get a citation package built through SEO Builder, really low cost and really cheap to do. Also, SEO Builder do create social profiles as well for you if you can't be bothered doing that stuff yourself. Very low cost, something like, I think it's $60 to get 35 citations. It's really low cost, all automated, and a great service. Now, what I also think about, and something for you to consider when you're building a PBN, is affiliate marketing. So how does a PBN pay for itself? Is it paying for itself by just using it as a link resource? Absolutely not. So I always think affiliate marketing when I build a PBN. Now, this is just an example of a PBN that I got. So there was a chap called Andrew Davies who was a businessman, and he had a whole bunch of hotels, and the hotel group was called Von Essen Hotels. Now, the guy basically sold all of his hotels for, 200 million or whatever the figure was, or it went bust or whatever, and the whole thing all gets sold off, and it was £200 million, job done. But the guy had obviously worked for years building up his brand. So Von Essen Hotels, nice looking website. That's something I just got completely rebuilt by the chap that I mentioned earlier on. So it's on WordPress. It's a nice looking website, mobile friendly and everything else. Now, it allows me to then have a whole bunch of hotels on there. Now, what was attractive about this domain name? It wasn't great in power. It was okay. It was a DR20, and it had links from the Times, the BBC, Wikipedia, Marie Claire, World Travel Awards, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm like, yeah, this is something we can work with. Now, what is the process like? How do we get content for our PBNs? So what I chose to do with this particular example was I basically ranked for a whole bunch of different hotels. And what I'd done here was you can see there, hotel review, Hampton by Hilton, Birmingham Broad Street, blah, 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 blah. And there's a video there, as you'll see. Now, basically, you'll see I ranked for a whole bunch of other hotels, and all the rankings are improving. Now, what did I do for content? And it's cheeky. It's a cheeky little trick, but basically went to YouTube, looked for hotel review videos, put the video through a transcription service called rev.com, which costs $1.25 per minute. And I think 5 minutes of content, or $5, basically gets you 1,000 words. So it depends on the length of the video and what they're transcribing. But you can get yourself a neat, tidy blog post and a video demonstration off of YouTube from those guys who love reviewing hotel rooms. You'll be able to see I go on to Rev all the time and have done this on numerous occasions and rank really well for these. Now, obviously, that's the content side of things, and it's a bit cheeky stealing content. But when you've got PBNs, you're trying to do everything on a budget. You can also look for the other expired domain names. Maybe using Ahrefs broken link checker or something else, and then go to the Wayback Machine and steal the content from other hotel websites that have expired, or simply get a VA to churn out content for you. Either way works. Obviously, with that particular website, I've got a booking.com affiliate on it. The website's growing, it's getting traffic, and hopefully that builds up into, well, it already pays for itself. That's the point. Now, is it ever going to be something that I want to make $10,000 a month from? Absolutely not. I'm not going to put that much time and effort into it. But what I'm doing is taking shortcuts to get fresh content on there, which in turn, allows Google to rank the website, and it gets traffic, and it becomes a real website that generates money, which pays for its hosting, which pays for its domain name, which pays for its rev, and any other links that I build to it. So it's a self-sufficient website, and that's what I would call a PBN. If it can make enough money to pay for the ongoing maintenance of it, and obviously feeding in some content and some links, then that's what I'll tend to do. Now, obviously, the whole purpose of PBNs is link value transfer, and obviously the top website here is your money website, and underneath are your PBNs, which can also make a bit of money, and then underneath that can be anything else. And you'll hear a lot of people talking about how they power up their PBNs or whatever they're going to do. As long as you're not damaging your main money website, a lot of people here will have PBNs and whatever else, or guest posts or whatever it's going to be, and then they basically will do anything, link laundering, call it what you like, but literally blast the hell out of it with the likes of SEO autopilot, the crappy guest posts, real cheap guest posts, blog comments, anything else you can do to pass any power to your PBN, do it, as long as it's not going to damage your domain name. So it allows you to have a much more aggressive strategy underneath the PBN. Now, I also get easy authority links and pointing to my domain name, the likes of behance.net, which you can buy on people per hour for 20 or 30 bucks. And there's a whole bunch of other high authority, low cost, easy authority domain names you can get to power up your PBN. You've got to think outside the box. Yes, I build content to the PBNs. Yes, I build links to the PBNs. Doesn't cost me a huge amount of money. And what's the point of it? Obviously, every website needs links out there, including your PBN. A lot of guys are not going to that level of detail, and the PBNs end up just dying off. Any traffic they did have fritters away, and so on. So you need to keep the website active with both content and links. And as I say, you can use a tool like SEOautopilot.eu, and it will allow you to automate and build Web 2.0s and build a whole bunch of other stuff, which in turn will power up your PBN as well. And obviously your PBN will be relatively powerful, which will be powering up your money website anyway, but there'll be that underneath tier or tiered link building structure, which is just increasing power all the time. So you hear people talking about tiered link building, and certainly for sure, I'll blast the hell out of guest posts and any kind of PBNs with a tool like this. Now, you can basically, there's so many different things, map embeds, videos, ram your keywords in, you can mix it all up. SEO Autopilot really is a good tool for that. Now, over and above that, this is obviously just, my practice for PBNs, but over and above that, you'll have people who hijack people's unverified listings, especially in America. Lots of people do the whole GMB thing where they're taking advantage of businesses who've not verified their GMBs, and they will simply do something like this and take over someone else's hotel listing and drive traffic to their PBN and get that affiliate money. There's so many tricks, pin drops, the whole shooting match that you can do with GMBs and everything else to completely scale up and monetize your PBN as well. So you could go even further than I do. I'm only doing the bare basics by doing some citations and add an affiliate, but you could go out and do other black hat things like taking people's GMBs off of them and simply generating leads that way and filtering it through to your website. And there's a whole bunch of other tricks that you can do, but that would obviously be for another webinar. But also prior to coming on to this webinar, Frankie had sent me a bunch of questions, and they are probably relevant to the conversation. So I've put them into the slides, and I'll just quickly go through these questions and answer them. And then if you guys have got any questions, I'm more than happy to talk to you and answer any questions you guys have got watching. But how many PBNs can you deploy per month at one niche? Now, industry dependent. I know guys that will spend, do 10. I know guys that will do 110. There is no real limit if you're avoiding footprints. Obviously, what you don't want to do is point, 2,000 PBNs at your money website all in 1 month. But I think that's humanly impossible anyway. By the time you go through the process, find a good expired domain name, give it to the guy to build the website, maybe use rev.com to get a bit more content. By the time you do all of that, you're limited in the amount you can do. So I wouldn't worry about a specific figure. Do as many as you humanly can. Now, what is the general metric that we check on a PBN site before getting links from them? I'm looking for DR. I'm also looking at the backlink profile, and I'm also looking to see, if it's been spammed to death, essentially is what I'm looking for, because a lot of guys that are letting domains expire have used and abused them. So the DR is something that obviously can be manipulated, but obviously you're wanting to look at the quality of backlinks that are pointing to that website. And if you're seeing them from the likes of BBC, the New York Times and all that stuff, then it's going to be semi-legit. If you see a whole bunch of PBNs or Google URL shorteners or anything else, then, of course, everyone knows how to manipulate DR, and, we can manipulate DR in 20 days. You can take a fresh domain name and make it a DR50, within 20 days. I think it's the current time scale on that. So don't just focus on DR, it's the quality of those backlinks, because if it's a high DR that's using the kind of, manipulation method, then it's not going to pass the same value as a domain name with links from the BBC, the Times, and all of these kind of things. So have a look at the referring domains. Now, question 3, having had some basic SEO knowledge, very basic, how do you raise your skills in analytics and promotion without investing money in the beginning? Is it possible is it possible to become a great SEO specialist, learning everything on your own and doing your own projects from the start? 100% you can. It's obviously going to be a longer learning curve. You know, I think most people in the industry, if they're being honest, are self-taught. Who has ever had a guru sat with them and pointing them in the right direction? Now, I'm not going to suggest that you shouldn't get a guru or some form of training, because, you know, personally, I offer training, and the way I would like to think is it took me my first 5 years in this industry. I made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Now, when I'm training someone, I can help avoid them make tons of the mistakes that I made and get them to a much higher level quicker. Obviously, if you've not got money for training, of course you can persevere. There's a lot of good stuff in YouTube. You know, you've just got to be careful who you follow, because a lot of people contradict what the other person says, and it can be done. You know, I'm self-taught, and I got to where I am today, you know, with no real training, you know, at the start. But obviously what I would say is, over time, I've invested money in training, networking, going to conferences, you know, paying guys for consult calls. So I would hate to think how much money it's actually cost me between making mistakes and all of that stuff to even get to where I am today. So you can learn for sure, and I think that's a good place to start. And, you know, from there, if you do get money, invest it wisely and network. Surround yourself with positive and good people who actually know what they're doing, and don't follow every Tom, Dick and Harry online. You know, be careful who you follow. What are the best hosting for PBN? So I'm not going to suggest any off-the-shelf PBN hosting accounts, because I've yet to find one that works really, really well. I'm sure there is. I've not looked for a few years, but, you know, I use the likes of TisoHost, SiteGround, Bluehost, Cloudways. You know, I've got accounts everywhere, and I think, you know, mixing that stuff up, depending on where you're located, because obviously there's going to be American companies that I've not really heard of, because I'm not based there. So looking around and using different local hosting companies is the best choice for hosting. How to test the toxicity of a PBN? Should we link out to a random site in page 4 and see what happens? You know, I don't. What I tend to do sometimes with a PBN is I'll just put a blank WordPress template on it, put the URLs onto the website and the content and everything else, and start to see if it starts to rank. And if Google is indexing the old URLs and the content, then that kind of gives me an indication that Google liked the website. And at that point, I would, you know, it would pass for me, and I would start linking out to things. But I think very quickly you can look at a domain name and look at the referring domains and kind of, you know, look at it and go, hey, hang on a minute, you know, I wouldn't point that to my website. So I think, you know, using your own eyes and stuff as well, rather than pointing it to a site in page 4 and seeing what happens, because some poor guy in page 4 could end up having a bit of a problem if you're pointing some old toxic domain to him. So certainly wouldn't encourage that. Do I have an SEO course? Yes. You can find it if you Google Craig Campbell SEO free SEO course. You'll find it. That is the actual URL there, and it's kind of basic. Gives people a starting point. There is some PBN stuff on there as well, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I'm trying to add videos every other day. You know, about a wide range of different digital marketing stuff, including a link building course, which I'm also giving away for free. So there's a lot to be learned on my YouTube channel. Again, if you look for Craig Campbell SEO on YouTube, you'll be able to find my channel there. But the recommended way to get started with PBNs for beginners, you know, buy one domain name, buy an expired domain, get someone to build it for you, get the process right, and then, you know, go from there and try and do it at a faster speed. You know, PBNs are not that hard. You know, it's a domain, hosting, getting the content on there, job done. And then go and follow through your processes of getting citations and links and everything else. But it should be something that you can do very, very easily. There's no real, complex steps in order to get that started. If my pages have too high a do follow to the no follow percentage, how can you balance it? I mean, I think it's not something I've ever sought out to balance as such. I think as a natural progression, you will get an element of no follow links, and it's go out and buy some. If you feel that that's a problem, but anyone who's got a 99% do follow backlink profile might want to buy themselves, some no follow stuff. But how much, what percentage are you looking at? Some websites have 80-20, some have 60-40, some have different variants. And I think just as time goes on, and the more content you're putting out there, and Web 2.0s and everything else, if you get a Web 2.0 pointing at you, some of that stuff will be a no follow. So Web 2.0s is another way where you can diversify that up, and look at various other things as well, that everyone else is getting, and that should be enough for you to balance it. But there's no specific figure, and it's not something I'd be overly worried about. I have a domain that I purchased several years ago. I started to build out the website and published it, but it has super crappy. I've learned a lot since then, and I wonder what your ideas would be for me so I can make the not finished question. So I'm not sure entirely what you mean there, but if you did do a crappy job, you can go back, add better content, do it better this time. Do it better the next time. Just work on the domain name. Everyone has to start somewhere, and of course we've all had super crappy PBNs and websites in general. Just go and implement what you've learned and try and build that website back up. If the metrics are gone, I certainly wouldn't be spending that amount of time on it. If the metrics are gone, toss it in the bin and find a new one and try and implement your new strategies, because the cost of a domain name's not expensive. So what you don't want to do is, if you've left it too long and then go back and try and revive it, it's a waste of time. So yeah, that's the advice on that. Now, I've showed you some examples of PBNs anyway, but does it work in all industries? Now, yes, PBNs potentially can work in all industries. Do you have to go to that level in all industries is the question. Now, people often ask me, do you solely just rely on PBNs? Do you, absolutely not. You want to go out and get your citations, any kind of broken links that you can get, if there is any kind of generic links that you can get, suppliers and all that kind of stuff, get all these links first. PBNs should just be used as kind of the icing on top. But certain industries like casino or gambling or something, that's ultra competitive, these guys use them on a more frequent basis. And sometimes, I don't know whether I should say this or not, but sometimes in the likes of gambling, I'm not sure Google cares about relevance or anything else. I'm pretty certain that some of the PBNs that are being built in the gambling niche are nowhere near relevant to gambling. They're buying up anything and everything. So certainly some niches are a lot more aggressive and do need that level of link building aggression to be able to compete with the competition. But certainly like the likes of local SEO and stuff like that, many people rank very, very well without even using a single PBN. So I would only implement it where I had to, because of course there is a risk. Although you're avoiding all the footprints, there still is a risk. You could get caught, or someone will report you or something like that. So there always is a risk, and there's no point in kidding yourself on that there isn't. But obviously the job is to mitigate that risk and keep it on the down low, and just be careful who you talk to about your PBNs and who you link to and all that stuff. Is there a safe number of PBNs per hosting plan? So I'm not going to lie and say that I've got one website on one single hosting, and that's across 100 hosting accounts or whatever. Sometimes there'll be 2, sometimes there'll be 3, but no more than that. It's something that is pretty much segregated out. Some will have 1, and as I say, some will have 3. I just like to mix that stuff up, but I think trying to not have too many. And when I say too many, 3, you start to have 5, then it's going to become 10. And again, it's just a massive footprint. So, if I was going to get hit, the worst case scenario, 3 of my websites would go down if it was only 3 I had on a hosting plan. So I think those kind of low numbers is where you want to be looking at. Why make PBNs with Google finding them, closing them down, and de-indexing? It's a good question, but they work. What I would put to you is, why start out in SEO if you feel you're always never going to compete with the top guys in the industry? What's the point? You've got to give stuff a go, and if you want to make money, in certain industries, then at the moment PBNs work, and sometimes you can make that money maybe using tactics that you might not be 100% comfortable with, and utilize that money and put it into a more bricks and mortar type of business. So that's why people do it. They need the money. They want to make money. There's money to be made now. There's no point in thinking what might happen in a year's time or 2 years' time. We also may get hit by a bus in 2 years' time. We might die. So what's the point in even working now? That's the kind of question that is. So I think you have to do and live for the moment. And whilst there's traction with PBNs and while there's money to be made on them, why not fill your boots with that money? That's the way I see it. So it's, Google may one day eventually catch everyone with them. And so what? We made some money along the time, and it's what you do with it. So I wouldn't be fearful of that. PBNs are not usually recommended. Why and how can we use them to our favour? So as I said at the start, links, we can all agree, work. What's the difference between a high-powered expired domain name that you've reset up as opposed to buying a guest post from a guy that you don't know? Who says they're not usually recommended? That's the question. Is it the geek in the office that doesn't use them? Is it a guy that had 100 PBNs all in one hosting account? Who says they don't work? Because I could show you 100 examples right now of websites where they do work. So whoever's saying they don't recommend them is obviously guys that work for Google, and obviously Google don't want people manipulating the search engines. Also, agencies will say we can't do that because we don't want to risk a client's website, and they've kind of got to say that if they don't want to scare the client and all that stuff. But you have to use what works now, and if PBNs is what works now, then that's what we want to do. That's what you want to implement. If you don't implement it, find some other strategy that's equally as powerful, or always be a loser. That's the answer to that one. This is a good question. Is it worth building a PBN, or is it easier and cheaper to buy PBN links? So there's two flips to this coin. Now, building a PBN, what does it cost? Might cost you $100 or $200 for the design of it. May cost you $50 for a domain name, and another $50 for the hosting. So say $300 just at the start, just to have the website. You can go and buy a guest post. You could buy 3 guest posts for that. The average price of a guest post is £100. So would you rather a PBN with 1 link or 3 guest posts? Now, of course, most people say, well, can't be bothered managing a PBN. I'd rather have 3 guest posts. If you've got a reliable, solid vendor, that's fine. But even when you're buying a guest post, if that domain expires or goes down, or they no longer want to run that, your link's gone. Whereas you get more control with a PBN. You are in full control of everything and how long that stays there for. So if you want to build and retain full control of stuff, then that's fine. You know, on a guest post, you know, again, you can pay $100, you know, on a DR, you know, 30 website or whatever. And who's to say that website over the next 3 months is not going to have 100,000 other links on there? So again, you can control the outbound link and all that, you know, the amount of outbound links and stuff like that are on a PBN. So you've got to weigh it up. You know, I get both sides of the argument in that one. So obviously, maintenance and managing a PBN is a right pain in the ass. It's, you know, a lot of work. You know, you've got to update all the plugins and all that stuff. So it's a very good question, and it really comes down to how much control you want over your business and rankings, and, you know, in terms of budget and stuff like that. You know, I think having more control is probably the safest, best option, but it also comes with a lot of bloody stress because, you know, PBNs go down and get hacked, you know, the same as every other WordPress website. And, it's, you know, when you're doing that on a massive scale, it can be a right pain. So just bear that in mind. Isn't PBNs penalized by Google? Now, yes, PBNs have been penalized by Google. That's people who are stupid and left massive footprints and got their network banned. If you want to dig a bit deeper into PBNs that have been banned by Google, you will find that these guys were publicly selling links on a massive scale, and word gets out, and Google will penalise it. Simple as that. So again, it's not really a PBN, it's a public blog network that gets penalised. PBNs, of course, people will get caught leaving footprints and whatever. Google are always trying to clean stuff up. But if you stay off radar, don't publicly sell them, mix stuff up, then you hopefully remain under that radar and go undetected. What is the most cost-effective or even free autopilot content creation tools? Now, you can have things like Serpstat, where you're going to use a mass page builder and literally ram loads of stuff out there. You can use something like that. You can use the spinning software. You know, if you feel that works, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It really comes down to what niche you're in. Or you can go to rev.com and rip videos and transcribe them. That's another low cost or cost-effective option. Or look for expired domains that expire and you're in that particular niche, and go and steal the content off of that. On top of that, if you're really clever and you really like the content that someone provides, you can basically sign up. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it because it's quite a cheeky one, but you can, obviously, when someone publishes content and they've got an RSS feed, you can have that ping you, and you can basically copy and paste an index of content quicker than them, and you'll get the credit for their brand new blog post. But that can lead into problems, trouble, and all that stuff. So you might not want to use that one, but there's loads of sneaky ways to get free content, is what I'm trying to say. So there's no random autopilot, you know, great one that's great. You know, all of them do have flaws, pitfalls. Sometimes you need to get someone else to go over it, check the spelling and mix it up a bit. But, you know, that's a couple of options for you. How many PBNs qualify as a network? You know, 5, 10, 100, you know, whatever your network needs. You know, how many links do you need? How many PBNs do you need to rank well? Might be 20, might be 40, might be 140. So that's your network. So it can be very small, or it can be very big. So how much work goes into the on-page for PBNs? You know, you want to follow the same practices where you've got a good internal linking structure and stuff like that. You know, is on page on a PBN going to be the same as an e-com website or, you know, your main money website? Absolutely not. You know, people just don't spend that amount of time on them. But you can do. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and the better and more time you spend on it, the more value you're going to get. The best place to buy PBN sites, you need to find an expired domain, and then get someone to build it. Now you can outsource that to a guy in Upwork or the guy I mentioned earlier, or use the Wayback Machine or Archiverics. So many options. Now you've also asked how many outbound links should one website have per month. It can be 1, it could be 21. That's up to you. Just know that the more outbound links you're putting on there is draining the juice and the power from your website. So I would only be linking to my own stuff. And that's what a PBN should be for. How do you search for domains for the casino niche? Just go in and look for sports, gambling, and all that kind of stuff, on the likes of Spamzilla and whatnot. I think casino is all about gaming, but it's sports, gambling. There's so many other things that kind of go into that as well. But I mean, I know casino guys that are a bit, they really don't care what they're buying. They'll just grab any old domain name. If it's any kind of power that passes any authority, they take it. So I don't think they're as selective or as relevant in that niche as we would be. If it was for me and I was looking for SEO related stuff or digital marketing related stuff, that would be totally relevant. I wouldn't go any wider than that, but guys in the casino niche do. What is the best economical way to get real traffic to PBNs to maximize their power with Google? So you've got micro workers. You can use low-cost paid traffic like Facebook, Facebook ads. You can use CTR Booster, which is just a traffic bot, click-through rate booster. I think that's ctrbooster.com. There's loads of different stuff like that if you want to try and get traffic back on there. But obviously what you want to do is get real traffic. Real traffic is going to make that website rise again. And obviously the likes of microworkers.com, where you're going to get low cost people to go on there, is your best option. But that is pretty much my presentation. I said to Frank it was going to be 25 minutes long, but it went on for an hour and 5 minutes. So sorry for that. But you can find me at craigcampbellseo.com, or you can get me on social media. But that is the presentation.
Well, Craig, thank you. If you think it's all, I guess we'll have 1 more hour of you answering more questions, because we have lots of them. Some people send them via emails. During your webinar, people kept registering and sending questions. And also we have several questions from the chat. So cool. Let's start. So we have the question from Benoit, I guess. What PBN networks would you recommend if you haven't done it yet? And Richard also said that he hopes that you will introduce a PBN network at the end of this so they can avoid all this work. So what do you think?
Absolutely no chance. The problem I've got, as I said on there, why would I expose my network and sell links on it? If I've got a network of websites that power up my own stuff, why would I even risk that, by selling that publicly? Of course, I could make a few bucks doing it, but I can't give you an answer to where is a good network. There are guys out there who sell PBN links, they're quite easily searchable. But the ones that are that easy to find are in danger of getting caught. So it's one of those ones where I can't really answer. Dig deep. There's always guys that you talk to in Facebook or whatever who say, oh, that guy's got, stuff in the finance niche or whatever. But you it's not something I want to publicly, give any names out or anything. I mean, I can point in the right direction if you message me and say, hey man, I'm in the casino niche, who's the guy to go to? I can point you to the right guy, but I'm not publicly, saying anything like that. And it's not withholding information. It's just, I'm not, prepared to throw someone under the bus like that, because we don't want Google, or
Yeah.
something catching up with them.
Yes, sure. We also have the question regarding paranoia. How paranoid should we be about registration information, like credit card, PayPal? What about hosting with Google? People say that get a bump, but it seems dangerous. I mean, Google as a registrar. What would you
I
had
mean,
a question about phone number registration? So what would you say?
certainly, I personally would not, under any circumstances, register a domain name with Google, for sure. I think paranoia. Do you really think Google can see a transaction that I paid another company for a domain name? Absolutely not. That data is encrypted. The company can't even see that data. So Google can't get into encrypted data. So I think a lot of people are paranoid. They're like, but if I use some fake persona and I pay for it with my card, then it's still going to be linked back to me. Google can't see that level of data. They look at who is, they look at various other things. They cannot see who fucking paid for that credit card with that credit card and what the number was. No one can. It's encrypted. So I think, you can be paranoid. You could also be giving Google way too much credit by thinking that they can see that level of data. Now, listen, there's so many flaws within Google all the time. Google are not as clever as you think. So do not think they're the FBI and can see every last thing that you do. So just try not be too paranoid. I don't think paranoia is a bad thing, in terms of avoiding footprints, but they're not the FBI checking your payments out and all that stuff. So yeah, don't worry about that.
I see. Also, people, so first, people are disappointed that you will not give them some ready-made solution. But yes, like they hoped you will share some PBN networks and everything. But yet they say that they understand it. Also, there is a question: how can you get real additional traffic to PBNs in order to improve their power? For instance, a bot that works, something like that. Is it possible? How do you think?
I use micro workers. So micro workers, you can send real people to your website. Also consider paid advertising like Facebook ads, targeting a specific location. Quora ads, all of these kind of low cost things are good. There is no great, amazing traffic bot. I use a tool called ctrbooster.com for some traffic, and it gives me a little bit of click-through and all that kind of stuff. Now, that's a great tool, but you've also got to mix that in with other real traffic, because if you want to show Google that website's coming, they could probably quickly identify a bot, whereas if it's been thrown in with some paid Facebook, even some paid ads if your budget allows, or some micro workers or whatever, as well as organic social media promotion. Don't ignore that either. All of that kind of stuff drives engagement, and we all know that engagement signals and click-through rate do lift a website as well. So that's something that you can do to mimic that stuff. And if you really want to get dirty with it, you could start buying Android emulators and or buying hundreds of phones. People go to extreme lengths when doing this stuff. So entirely up to you how far you want to go with it, but always mix it with paid as well.
I see. Also, there is a question how to find good drops. What would you say?
Good drops. So there's guys out there like Joash that I mentioned earlier. You've got Callan, who's another guy who, if I say the word Callan, I can't remember his second name. He's a Bulgarian guy. He's the guy that's the one of the world's biggest drop catchers. You're better going to these guys because these guys obviously are drop catchers, and what a lot of people don't understand is they think a domain just drops and you know, that's it. But there's guys out there like Callan and Joash and everyone else who are called drop catchers, who have a whole bunch of software and whatever they do to capture that domain name before it goes to the open market. So you have to go to them and say, hey, dude, like, you know, I'm working in the hotel niche. Just regularly send me all the hotel shit you've got, and they will do that for you. You know, these are the guys to go to. There's no point in, you know, me trying to become a drop catcher and, you know, having to buy, you know, a whole bunch of software and accounts and all that stuff. You're as well just going and paying them their £100 fee or whatever they charge. They don't normally charge crazy amounts of money unless it's like, you know, an outrageously brandable domain name. So go to those guys. Callan, you've got Matt Tricott, who's based in the UK, and you've also got Joash, who I mentioned his service in the slides. So you can go to these guys. They're drop catchers. That's what they do all day, every day, these guys.
Okay, we have also the question recommendations. People ask for your recommendations regarding how to register domains. Won't registering with a fake name risk the cancellation of the domain? And what do you recommend? Which are your recommended practices for hosting, if you haven't mentioned it yet?
Yeah, so in terms of domains, of course, there is that element of risk where you could potentially lose it. But, you know, if you've got a fake persona who's got a Facebook, who's got a Twitter, who's got all of that stuff, and you can actually just contact the hosting company saying, hey, dude, you know, this is mine, I paid for it, blah, 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 blah. I've never had a problem with that. You know, what I did have a problem with many years ago, we have in the UK a regulating body called Nominate, and I used to register domain names just under like Donald Duck, you know, whatever, and Nominate actually phoned me and said, listen, mate, you're going to lose them all unless you start putting a real name against them. So, you know, I think trying to make it look real will make you fly under the radar. If you're going to be, you know, trying to be a smart ass about it and use Donald Duck and stupid things like that, then it could raise the red flag and you could run that risk. Yeah. But as I say, the whole point in me building fake personas, it's like I've got 10 other guys who work for me with their own stuff, you know, their own Facebooks and everything. You know, have I ever had to personally show ID to a hosting company to prove who I am? Never. You know, if you've got a profile, you've got an email, you've got a social media, you know, I've never known anyone to you know, have that problem if they've got all of that. And no one's ever asked me in my years in this industry, prove who you are, send me a picture of your license before, or I'm taking your domain off you. It's never been a question that's been put to me ever. So maybe they should do that in future if they were smart enough.
I see. And there is also similar question a little bit about expired domains. When you buy expired domains, do you use fake name, phone address, and phone number, or do you use your real name with the privacy on the domain? Because the guy who asked, he had experience from auctioned domains from GoDaddy. And what we found is that even when they created fake profiles, which worked fine, when they buy domains on GoDaddy outside auction, but when they bought from auction, it always used their real details in the billing. Have you ever managed to use fake names for GoDaddy auction? How have you had any similar experience? How do you?
No, I would always use my own name when it comes to GoDaddy auctions because they're a bit more on the ball. Now, if it was just a random expired domain name and whatever, you know, I'm not that fussed. But, you know, if I'm paying, you know, reasonable money for it or whatever on GoDaddy auctions, then it's something I would hide the who is information from and just use my own name and my own GoDaddy account. Those are few and far between, though. It's not as if you're going to buy, you know, thousands of GoDaddy auction domain names. A lot of them will be dropped or whatever. And, you know, if it's, I'm in the UK, so, you know, when it comes to .coms, things are a little bit more difficult. In the UK, you know, all we have to do is add an IPS tag and the domain goes and all that kind of stuff. I think you know, just when you're buying them from auctions and all that kind of stuff, if there's any kind of funny business and GoDaddy, you know, kind of hammer you for it. So I would always be cautious with the likes of GoDaddy.
There is a question from Raphael about it. Is there a difference between a GoDaddy auction or an auction from Snapname's Dropcatch.com? How do you think?
I mean, I think, you know, GoDaddy auctions is the main one that's out there. And I think a lot of these other smaller companies pull the data from, you know, GoDaddy's API. Now, I'm not familiar with the ones that he actually mentioned there. You know, as I say, I normally just go straight to GoDaddy auctions or domain lower, or you know, or I'll find something in Spamzilla that's expired, or I'll go to a drop catcher. That's my 4 options. But I do know that a lot of the other kind of auction websites are pulling in GoDaddy data. So it could very well be that they're on there. They are the main body for that stuff, and it's the main place to go.
I see. We have also the question, when you recover content from Wayback Machine for an expired domain, do you worry about copyright issues? What would you say?
I've had it a few times. I've had it a couple of times. So I'll give you an example. I got a domain name and it was the National Birds of Prey Association. So they let that expire and I got the domain name, put it up, and, you know, took everything from the Wayback Machine, and the National Birds of Prey were going to the hosting company and they were basically saying, you know, he can't use, you know, the National Birds of Prey here. So they were basically telling the hosting company to take the website down unless I remove their kind of copyright name. So you can run into slight issues like that. Obviously, I didn't really think too much. I just didn't think that would be something that would have copyright on it as such, but it did, and you know, you just have to get it down. If I didn't take it down, the hosting company were going to take the site down, so I was left in the position where I had to do it. So yeah, you can run into problems. Again, they're few and far between. It really just depends. You know, I've also had an instance where I grabbed a domain name from a company, and the guy reached out and he's like, I had no idea this expired, but like, I want my domain name back, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. He says that, you know, there's some admin error here and whatever, like, please stop it. You know, you're only using this for a PBN, and I gave him it back. So there are certain instances where, you know, a random guy or a random company have let it go, and I think legally you could sit on it, but you can't really use someone else's or pass off to be that person. You know, I think, yeah, just be careful with it.
I see. Okay. Guys also ask which tools you use to manage PBN. So do you have any favorite tools?
I don't use tools now. I'll tell you the reason why. There used to be a tool that used to update all your plugins, and I can't remember the name of it now. God, it was a tool that updates all your plugins, and you can log in from the one dashboard. I can't remember the name of it. But what happened there was we signed up for it, and it worked well for a while. But when we were updating the plugins, sometimes the tool would go through and blow up all the plugins, or blow up some of the plugins. Now, the website would go down, and we were looking at the PBNs every day. So the websites were down, and you know, it was just a joke, you know, because there was no notifications or anything. It was Managed WP actually, which was the big tool that allows you to manage them all from one dashboard. But no, we any PBNs that I've got, I just have VAs and stuff like that manually do everything, because I think automating managed WP and stuff, you can run into problems, and even if you found out that a plugin blew up a website and you didn't notice it for 30 days, and then you go back and your website's just gone, you've lost it because the backups are only taken for 30 days. So I think trying to automate certain things like that can just lead to a whole lot of problems. But yeah, I'm much comfier. I don't have like 1,000 PBNs or anything. It's in the hundreds. and I just delegate and use VAs and whatnot to manage that process.
Okay, Andreas asks, main VP or manage VP? What do you mean? I guess
it was managed WP.
Manage WP. Okay, thank you. We have also one question about, can I use 100 different Cloudflare accounts if I want to hide 100 private blogs, or is it big footprint? Could you give different cheap way in this case? What would you advise?
I mean, you don't have to use Cloudflare at all. That's the thing. Why? Obviously Cloudflare. You could easily mask 1,000 websites and the name servers and everything with Cloudflare. But why? Why not mix that up? Why not have NS1 .godaddy.com or whatever as your name servers? Just adds an element of uniqueness to the PBN. But if you prefer to use Cloudflare and you wanted to mask 100 websites, there's millions of websites that use Cloudflare. I don't think Google are going to be penalizing everyone who uses Cloudflare, in case it might be a PBN. So I don't see there being a problem with it. I just certainly wouldn't be going to that level. I would be mixing it all up.
I see. Also, Andreas says that companion auto update plugin is great to keep sites updated. So to his mind.
Yeah.
Okay. And also we have a question. Please talk about PBN and hiding footprints for e-commerce websites. Are there any peculiarities about it? What would you say?
I mean, a PBN is a PBN. Avoiding footprints, would be avoid using the same username, avoid using the same plugins, avoid using the same domain registrars, templates, content, the same internal linking structure. Try and mix everything up. Whether it's an e-commerce website or not, just mix up the kind of silo structure, or just try and keep everything unique. There's nothing at all wrong with setting up an e-commerce PBN and having different products and stuff on there. It's just treat it as a real website, as you would. That's all I can really say on that. It's no different from e-commerce to a 5-page WordPress blog. Obviously, there's more to an e-commerce website, but just try and avoid repetition of anything. Having the same, like Dave as your admin or whatever. All of these silly little things. If there's a Dave on 100 e-commerce websites and they're all using the same template and stuff, then clearly Google can go, clearly somebody's at it here. So it's just mixing all of those kind of stupid little small details up, and not using the same plugins and stuff like that, and different images and different kind of language and all that as well. And yeah, mix it up as much as you can. And I think using VAs to do a lot of these processes will give you that element of uniqueness to every website anyway, because the way that Frankie's going to write here is going to be completely different from me. And then if she was the outsourced part of it, then we're going to have 3 different ways of writing. So mix it all up that way, and you won't go far wrong.
Well, and we have a very serious question at the end. It was sent by email. What are you planning for TikTok challenge? Do you need any help?
I don't need help as such. I've got someone, and I'm not going to say any names, but I've got someone helping me who's a lot better at graphics and video animation than me, because that's a massive weak point. And Matt Diggity.
Oh, you are too shy, Craig. Your videos are great.
Matt Diggity came out with a good video, and I've just been biding my time. I don't need any help, though. I've got help coming, but I do appreciate it, and something will happen very, very soon, and I will reclaim the top man on TikTok.
So, and by the way, this TikTok challenge, it looked really great. Do you think it's possible to use it for promotion, for something serious? Because usually people consider it like entertainment. So it's very fun, but what can they get from it? How do you think?
I mean, I think, it can be used in a number of ways. We're obviously doing it for a joke, to troll each other. We're actually good friends. We don't actually hate each other. But I think, obviously Matt's given away some Ahrefs stuff yesterday. And I spoke to some people at SEMrush saying, like, he's giving away Ahrefs, and they're like, will you give away some stuff? So, of course, obviously other people can jump in and get exposure from it, and I think that's the good thing about it. It's all done in good and in a good way, in a good nature, and obviously other people can get exposure from it. And Christoph, who has kind of fell away behind, his LRT tool was also getting exposure from it. So it was all good, and everyone's getting a bit of traffic. And I think we're obviously in a very boring industry, and it's sometimes good to have a bit of fun and entertainment.
Sure.
And again, I turned up to a SEMrush webinar a few weeks ago, and Matt Diggity was on, and there's a poster of me up on the wall in the background, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh my god.
So
yeah.
So yeah, he's giving me exposure. I'm giving him exposure. Other companies are getting exposure, and yeah, I would encourage, if any companies want to join in, then go for it. Why not?
We have a question from Rafael, a very risky one. What is one must-have tool for a beginner, SEMrush or Ahrefs? I did Serpstat here also, but okay. Shall we kick Rafael out of our webinar? How do you say?
Yeah, he's trying to get me into trouble now.
I'm joking.
Obviously, it depends where I am, but it's got to be Serpstat. Listen, all of the tools are good tools in reality, and I've used all of the tools, and it really comes down to your budget and what you want to achieve from it. I think all of these different tools have slightly different, they're better at different things, if you like. It's Serpstat pull a lot of local data through, which SEMrush or Ahrefs maybe don't pull through, or Ahrefs have previously always been known as better at backlinks and all that stuff. So I think you've got to try them all out, and also it comes down to me personally, as I'm pretty sure everyone knows, I'm always on SEMrush and whatnot, and it's more the interface and being used to a tool as well. I think rather than me saying like, Ahrefs is not good, SEMrush is the best or whatever. It's not about that. It's more about, for many years I've used SEMrush, and when I look at other tools, I'm just like, fuck, it's like learning that, like, it's like going from a Mac back to a Windows or a Windows to a Mac. You just you can't function properly because you just know where everything is. So I think it's also down to the interface and what tool you have been used to, because as I say, they're all doing these tools and produce decent data. So whatever one suits you, man.
Yes, I think that it depends also, because all the tools, the mentioned tools, are great ones, and you need to monitor also what is going on, because also all the tools, they are developing with the time, and you just need to like check what you need depending on your niche, on your needs, and which maybe some tool will help you better. So you have to check. And besides, sometimes the tool which you knew, because we had such clients who knew us, for example, 2 years ago, and when they come back in 2 years, they are surprised at the changes we've done since then. So you always need to monitor all these things. That's my opinion.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you a story about this actually very quickly.
Yes, sure.
So I was at a mastermind, and one of my friends is like, you have to go on Ahrefs, check it out. And I'm like, man, Ahrefs is shit, like, blah, 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 blah. And the reason that I said that was I hadn't been on it for years. But then when he pulled it up on his screen, I was like, fuck, like they offer so much more data now. So the point I'm trying to make is don't be ignorant. Check them out,
Sure,
try them
sure.
out, because I was like, Craig, you're an idiot. Like
Yes.
you know, you just thought it was the way it was, 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
So check them out.
I agree. And besides, there are also some small tools which can say, if they solve your one problem very quickly, very fast, they can be very narrow specific. But if they solve it and they appear every day, you can be amazed and you can use them. Why not? I agree with you that you shouldn't be ignorant, because in this industry, every day happens something. So you have to know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Craig, thanks for your webinar. As I was sure that your webinar will last almost overnight. So thank you. We have so many questions, and I'm sure that people will send even more. Thanks for your wonderful presentation. It was full of cases, full of personal experience. You shared everything with great sincerity, and people say that it was super awesome. And the RFL, which I said will be banned, he said he will go straight to check out Serpstat. Don't worry, Rafael, you may stay here. Okay, thank you for attending, guys, also, because I think you gained a lot, and I will rewatch it again, and I will check again the presentation of Craig, because it was for us, it was also very useful. We always need to check different ways of promotion, and we shouldn't be ignorant in any case, and it was super useful. Thank you very much, Craig. It was wonderful presentation.
No problem. Been a pleasure.
Very educational and fun.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great day, guys, too. Thank you. Hope to see you again. Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.